Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on really an essential journey through the inner workings of your body.
That's right.
You've shared Chapter 20 of Human Anatomy Physiology, the 10th edition, and our mission really is to unpack the lymphatic system
Yeah.
and its fascinating lymphoid organs and tissues. Get ready for some, well, maybe some aha moments about one of your body's unsung heroes.
Definitely unsung. While this system might not grab headlines, like the heart or the brain,
Right.
its quiet background work is absolutely crucial. I mean, if it failed, our cardiovascular system would just be impaired, overwhelmed, really, and our immune system hopelessly compromised.
Wow.
So we're going to clarify how it returns those leaked fluids back to the blood and, importantly, provides the anatomical basis for your body's defenses.
Okay, let's unpack this vital system then. We're talking about this sort of meandering network of vessels, the fluid called lymph, and these lymph nodes that cleanse that fluid. It's a remarkable problem solver for your circulatory dynamics.
Exactly. As blood circulates, fluid is constantly exchanged between blood and the interstitial fluid. That's the fluid bathing your cells.
Okay.
About 3 liters of fluid, plus some plasma proteins, leak out daily, every single day.
3 liters.
Yeah, and they become that interstitial fluid. The lymphatic vessels are these, elaborate drainage networks designed specifically to collect this excess protein-containing fluid and return it to the bloodstream. That's key for maintaining blood volume. And once it's in those vessels, then it becomes lymph, or clear water.
So how does this fluid collection actually begin at the ground level?
It starts with microscopic, blind-ended lymphatic capillaries. And what's fascinating here is their incredible permeability.
More permeable than blood capillaries.
Oh, much more. Unlike blood capillaries, their endothelial cells aren't tightly joined. Instead, they overlap, forming these little flap-like mini valves.
Like tiny swinging doors.
Exactly like that. And collagen filaments anchor these cells, so when interstitial fluid volume increases, the pressure pushes these mini valves open, letting fluid in. But if pressure inside the lymphatic capillary gets higher, the mini valves just swing shut, prevents backflow.
That's a clever one-way system. And I hear they can pick up more than just fluid.
Absolutely. Proteins, for instance, which are often too large to get back into blood capillaries easily, they slip right into the lymphatic capillaries.
Okay.
And even more critically, during inflammation, these capillaries develop openings that permit uptake of much larger particles, things like cell debris, pathogens, bacteria, viruses, and even cancer cells. Now, this is a bit of a double-edged sword, obviously. Pathogens can use lymphatics to spread.
That sounds risky.
It can be, but it's partly offset by the cleansing action that happens later in the lymph nodes. It's a necessary function for cleanup.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Lacteals. What are those milky vessels doing?
Lacteals. Yes, they're a special set of lymphatic capillaries found right in the villi of the small intestine.
In the gut lining.
Exactly. They transport absorbed fats from your diet. And because fats make the lymph look milky white, we call that specific lymph chyle.
Chyle. Got it. So how does all this lymph, the clear water and the milky chyle, how does it travel once it's collected? Is there a pump, like the heart?
That raises a really important point. Unlike the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system lacks a central pump. There's no heart for the lymph.
No pump. How does it move then?
It flows only toward the heart, always one way. It moves through bigger and bigger vessels, collecting vessels, then trunks, and finally into large ducts.
Okay.
The collecting vessels themselves, they have thinner walls and actually more internal valves than veins, and they connect with each other a lot more than anastomose.
More connections.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the major trunks, they're usually named for the regions they drain, like the lumbar trunks from the lower back, bronchomediaxonal from the chest, subclavian from near the collarbone, jugular from the neck. And then there's a single intestinal trunk.
And where does all this collected lymph ultimately go? Where's the final destination?
It's all delivered to one of 2 large ducts right up in the thoracic region, your chest area. There's the right lymphatic duct that drains the right upper limb and the right side of the head and thorax.
Just that upper right quadrant.
Pretty much. And then there's the much larger thoracic duct, which drains, basically the rest of the body.
Wow, the whole rest.
Yeah, including both lower limbs, often via a collecting sac called the cisterna chyle, which is present in about half of people.
Cisterna chyle, okay.
And both these big ducts empty their lymph back into the venous circulation right at the junction where the internal jugular and subclavian veins meet on their respective sides.
Back into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
So if there's no pump, How does the lymph actually get propelled along? Against gravity sometimes.
Good question. It relies on the same kinds of mechanisms that help blood return in your veins.
Okay, like what?
Well, the milking action of active skeletal muscles is a big one. When you move, your muscles squeeze the vessels.
So exercise helps lymph flow.
Definitely. Also, pressure changes in the thorax when you breathe helps pull lymph upwards. And of course, those valves prevent backflow.
Right, the one-way valves.
Plus, the pulsations of nearby arteries can gently push on the lymphatic vessels. And the smooth muscle in the walls of the larger lymphatic vessels actually contracts rhythmically, helping to pump the lymph along too.
So multiple factors.
Yes, it's sporadic and slow compared to blood flow, but physical activity really ramps it up.
Which leads us to a couple of important clinical things from our sources. What happens if this system goes wrong?
Well, if lymphatic vessels get severely inflamed, say from an infection, the superficial ones near the skin can become visible. You might see red, tender lines. That's called lymphangitis.
Lymphangitis, okay.
And anything that prevents normal lymph return, like a tumor blocking a lymphatic vessel, or if they're removed during cancer surgery,
Right.
that can result in severe localized swelling. Edema. We call that lymphedema.
Lymphedema. That sounds serious.
It can be quite debilitating. It's why, for instance, if you have an infection in your arm, keeping it still helps. It hinders the spread of inflammatory stuff through the lymphatics.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered the drainage system. Now let's shift gears to the immune system's foundation. What are the key cellular players here, the lymphoid cells?
Right. The lymphoid cells, these include the immune system cells found in lymphoid tissues, plus some supporting cells. The main warriors are the lymphocytes.
T cells and
T cells, exactly. T cells manage the immune response, and some directly attack infected cells. B cells produce plasma cells.
The antibody factories.
That's right. Plasma cells secrete antibodies that mark antigens, the bad guys, like bacteria or viruses, for destruction.
Okay. Who else is involved?
You also have macrophages and dendritic cells. These are crucial. They phagocytize, basically eat foreign substances, and then they activate T cells by showing them what they found.
Like intelligence officers.
Kind of. And finally, you have reticular cells. They produce the reticular fiber stroma. Think of it as the scaffolding, the network that supports all these other immune cells within the lymphoid tissue.
So this scaffolding, this lymphoid tissue, sounds like a critical hub, like a base of operations.
It is. Lymphoid tissue is mostly loose reticular connective tissue. It does two main things. It houses lymphocytes and gives them a place to proliferate, multiply rapidly when needed. And it serves as an ideal surveillance vantage point for both lymphocytes and macrophages. They're constantly cycling through blood vessels, lymphoid tissues, connective tissues, always on patrol, ready for a rapid response.
Are there different ways this lymphoid tissue is arranged?
Yes. There's diffuse lymphoid tissue that's a loose arrangement found in pretty much every body organ, especially in mucous membranes like your gut lining.
Okay.
And then there are lymphoid follicles. These are more organized, solid, spherical bodies packed with cells and fibers.
Cool.
Right. And these often have lighter staining germinal centers. That's where B cells are really busy dividing and making plasma cells during an immune response.
Where the action is.
Exactly. And you find aggregations of these follicles in places like Peyer's patches in the intestinal wall and also in the appendix.
Peyer's patches in the appendix. Okay. And how are the lymphoid organs categorized? You mentioned primary and secondary.
Correct. Lymphoid organs fall into two functional groups. Primary lymphoid organs are where B and T cells mature, become fully functional.
Where they go to school.
Sort of, yeah. That's the red bone marrow for B cells and the thymus for T cells.
Okay, marrow and thymus. Primary.
Then you have the secondary lymphoid organs. This is where mature lymphocytes first encounter their specific antigens and get activated. It's where the battles happen.
The battlegrounds, like what?
These include the lymph nodes, the spleen, and those collections of MALT mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue we mentioned.
Got it. And it's important to remember one unique thing about lymph nodes among all these organs, right? What was that again?
Yes, that's key. While all lymphoid organs help protect the body, only the lymph nodes actually filter lymph.
Only the nodes filter lymph. The others don't have lymph coming in to be filtered.
Generally, no. They might have efferent lymphatics draining them, vessels leaving, but they lack the afferent lymphatics, the incoming vessels that nodes use for filtering. Spleen filters blood. MALT guards surfaces.
Okay. That's a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
So let's take a closer look at the lymph nodes. They seem like really central players, doing both filtering and immune activation.
They absolutely are. These small bean-shaped organs, maybe an inch long or so, they cluster along the lymphatic vessels. You find big groups near the body surface, inguinal region, groin, axillary, armpits, cervical neck.
Places you might feel them if they're swollen.
Exactly. And they perform two basic protective functions. One, cleansing the lymph. Macrophages inside remove microorganisms and debris, stopping them from reaching the blood.
Filter station.
Right. And two, immune system activation. This is where lymphocytes encounter antigens and mount attacks against them.
Command center, too. So how are they structured to do both jobs?
Each node has a dense fibrous capsule on the outside. And inside, extensions of this capsule, called trabeculae, divide the node into compartments.
Okay.
The internal framework is that reticular fiber scaffolding we talked about, supporting loads of lymphocytes. Histologically, under a scope, you see a cortex and a medulla.
Outer and inner parts.
Yep. The superficial cortex has those packed follicles, often with germinal centers buzzing with dividing B cells. The deeper part of the cortex houses T cells that are just passing through, plus lots of dendritic cells helping to activate lymphocytes.
And the medulla, the inner part.
The medulla contains medullary cords. These are strands of lymphoid tissue with both lymphocytes and large lymph sinuses, and that's where many macrophages hang out, right in the path of the lymph flow.
Okay, so lymph flows in, gets filtered and checked out, then flows out.
That's the general path. Lymph enters the convex side through several afferent lymphatic vessels.
Afferent means arriving.
Correct. It flows through a space just under the capsule, the subcapsular sinus, then percolates through smaller sinuses in the cortex and down into the medulla.
Percolates, I like that.
Yeah, it meanders through these medullary sinuses, giving the macrophages and lymphocytes plenty of time to interact with it. Finally, it exits at the hilum, that's the indented part, via usually just one or two efferent lymphatic vessels.
Efferent means exiting. And this leads to another aha moment for the listener. Why are there fewer efferent vessels leaving than afferent vessels arriving?
This raises an important question, and the answer is brilliant design. Having fewer efferent vessels slows down the lymph flow inside the node. It creates a sort of bottleneck.
Makes it back up a bit.
Exactly. And that slowdown is crucial. It allows more time for the lymphocytes and macrophages to carry out their protective functions, cleansing the lymph and activating immune responses if needed.
Clever. Very clever. And what about the clinical side of lymph nodes? We mentioned swelling.
Right. Lymph nodes can definitely get overwhelmed. If large numbers of bacteria get trapped, the node becomes inflamed, swollen, tender. We call that condition buboes, though people often just say swollen glands.
Buboes, like bubonic plague.
Historically, yes, but any severe bacterial infection can cause it. Also, lymph nodes can become secondary cancer sites. Metastasizing cancer cells traveling in the lymph often get trapped there.
Oh.
An important distinction, though. Cancer-infiltrated nodes are typically swollen, but often not painful. Infected nodes are usually tender. That can be a diagnostic clue.
Good to know. Okay, from the small but mighty lymph nodes, let's go to the big one.
The spleen. Largest lymphoid organ. What's its main gig?
The spleen. Yeah, it's this soft, blood-rich organ about the size of your fist, located in the upper left part of your abdomen.
Left side. Okay.
It provides a site for lymphocyte proliferation and immune surveillance, much like lymph nodes, so it has an immune role.
But its perhaps even more central functions are related to blood cleansing. It's a major blood filter. Its macrophages remove old and defective blood cells and platelets, and also foreign matter from the blood.
So it cleans the blood, not the lymph.
Primarily, yes, it cleans the blood.
Beyond cleansing, what else does the spleen do?
It's a great recycler. It breaks down old red blood cells and recycles their components, like iron from hemoglobin, for reuse.
Resource management.
Totally. It also stores blood platelets and monocytes, a type of white blood cell, releasing them when needed, like during bleeding or infection. And interestingly, it can even be a site of red blood cell production in the fetus.
Wow, multi-talented. How is the spleen structured to handle all these tasks?
It also has a fibrous capsule and inward trabeculae, like lymph nodes. Histologically, it's got two main components, white pulp and red pulp.
White and red pulp, easy to remember.
Kind of. The white pulp is where the immune functions happen. It's mostly lymphocytes clustered around central arteries, like little immune stations within the spleen.
Okay, immune part is white pulp.
Right. And the red pulp is where the blood destruction and cleansing occurs. It's where worn-out red blood cells and pathogens are destroyed. It contains huge numbers of red blood cells and macrophages organized into structures called splenic cords, surrounding blood-filled spaces called splenic sinusoids.
So red pulp is full of red blood cells. Makes sense.
It does, though fun fact, the white pulp sometimes looks darker under the microscope because the lymphocyte nuclei stain darkly, but its name comes from its fresh appearance.
Ah, okay. Interesting. What happens if the spleen gets damaged? You said it's soft and blood-rich.
Yeah, because its capsule is relatively thin, a direct blow, like in a car accident, or even a severe infection can cause it to rupture, and that can lead to severe internal bleeding into the peritoneal cavity.
Sounds dangerous.
It is. Splenectomy surgical removal used to be pretty standard, but now surgeons really try to conserve the spleen if possible because it can often repair itself.
Really? It can heal?
Often, yes. And if it has to be removed, thankfully, the liver and bone marrow take over most of its functions. And incredibly, in kids under 12, the spleen can even regenerate if a small part is left behind.
Regenerate? That's amazing.
The body is pretty remarkable.
Okay, moving to another strategic defense line. MALT, Mucosa-associated lymphoid tissues. This sounds important, like guards at the gates.
That's a great way to think of it. MALT refers to distributed lymphoid tissues found in mucous membranes all through the body. They guard your entryways against pathogens.
Entryways like?
Your digestive tract, respiratory tract, genitourinary tract, places exposed to the outside world. MALT protects us from the constant onslaught of pathogens trying to get in.
Makes sense. What are the largest collections of MALT? The main guard posts?
The biggest and best known are the tonsils, Peyer's patches, and the appendix.
The tonsils, those swellings in the throat, how do they work?
The tonsils form a ring of lymphoid tissue right around the entrance to the pharynx, the throat. You've got the paired palatine tonsils. Those are the ones you usually see at the back of the throat and the ones most often infected.
Yeah.
Then there's the lingual tonsil at the base of the tongue and the pharyngeal tonsil higher up, which people call the adenoids when they're enlarged.
Adenoids, actually.
And their job is to gather and remove pathogens from the food we eat and the air we breathe.
How do they do that gathering? I've heard about tonsillar crypts.
Ah, yes, the crypts. The tonsils aren't fully encapsulated, and the epithelium, the surface tissue, folds inward, deep into the tonsil, forming these blind-ended tonsillar crypts.
Like little pits.
Exactly. These crypts trap bacteria and other particulate matter. And here's the fascinating part. The bacteria actually work their way into the lymphoid tissue beneath the crypts.
Wait, they let the bacteria in?
Seems counterintuitive, right? But most are destroyed once they're inside. This process effectively educates the immune system. It generates immune cells with a memory for those specific pathogens.
So it's like controlled exposure training.
Precisely. Especially important during childhood for building lifelong immunity.
What about Peyer's patches and the appendix? What's their multilo?
Peyer's patches, or aggregated lymphoid nodules, are large clusters of lymphoid follicles found in the wall of the distal part of the small intestine, right near the end.
Okay.
And the appendix is that little tubular offshoot from the beginning of the large intestine. It also has a high concentration of lymphoid follicles.
Right. The appendix isn't useless after all.
Definitely not. Both Peyer's patches and the appendix are ideally positioned to do two things. Prevent bacteria, which are abundant in the intestine, from breaching the intestinal wall, and, like the tonsils, generate memory lymphocytes for long-term gut immunity.
Very strategic locations. Okay, finally, let's talk about the thymus. This one seems a bit different, especially its role early in life.
The thymus is quite unique. It's a bilobed organ found in the lower neck and upper chest, sort of overlying the heart. Its most critical function happens primarily during youth.
Youth?
It is the maturation site for T lymphocyte precursors. This is where T cells become immunocompetent.
Immunocompetent, meaning?
Meaning they become fully functional, able to recognize and respond to specific pathogens, but crucially, not attack the body's own tissues. It's a complex training process.
The T-cell schoolhouse.
Exactly. The thymus is largest and most active during the first year or so of life. Then it gradually shrinks, atrophies after puberty. It gets replaced mostly by fibrous and fatty tissue.
So it disappears.
Not completely. It continues to produce some T cells, just at a much slower rate throughout adulthood.
What makes the thymus so unique compared to the lymph nodes or spleen?
There are three key differences. First, it has no follicles because it lacks B cells entirely. It's purely a T cell place.
Row B cells. Got it.
Second, it does not directly fight antigens. Its function is strictly maturation. There's actually a blood thymus barrier that keeps blood-borne antigens out of the thymus.
Why keep them out?
To prevent the T cells in training from being prematurely activated before they're fully mature and know not to attack self.
Protects the trainees.
Precisely. And third, its internal structure, the stroma, isn't made of reticular fibers like other lymphoid organs. It's made of epithelial cells. These provide the unique physical and chemical environment needed for T-cell maturation.
Epithelial cells,
Yeah.
not reticular. Very different. Okay, connecting all these dots. How does this whole system develop, and how does it tie into everything else in our body? It doesn't operate in isolation.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's deeply interconnected. Developmentally, the lymphatic vessels actually start budding off from developing veins around the 5th week of embryonic development.
That early.
Yep. And they keep connections to the venous system. The thymus is the very first lymphoid organ to appear, developing from the lining of the primitive pharynx. The others, like the spleen and nodes, develop later from different embryonic tissue.
Wow.
And after birth, these organs get heavily populated by lymphocytes ready to start their defensive work. This really shows the crucial homeostatic links between the lymphatic and immune systems and, well, pretty much every other body system.
Can you give some examples?
Sure, lymphatic vessels pick up leaked fluid from nearly all organs. Immune cells protect those organs. On the flip side, think about skeletal muscles. Their pump helps lymph flow. Bones house the marrow where lymphocytes originate. The digestive system absorbs nutrients vital for immune cells.
It's all connected.
Even hormones from the endocrine system and reproductive system can influence immune function. It's a beautifully integrated, complex network.
What an absolutely incredible journey through the lymphatic system and its lymphoid organs and tissues. We've really seen how this seemingly quiet system is completely essential, maintaining your fluid balance, providing the very foundation of your immune defenses.
Yeah, it really is foundational.
From those tiny permeable lymphatic capillaries, yes, just stopping your tissues from getting waterlogged, to the huge blood-filtering spleen and that T-cell training ground, the thymus, every single part plays such a critical role, often totally unseen.
Indeed. And understanding these structures, these functions, it doesn't just clarify the body's design, does it? It highlights the constant unseen work happening inside you right now to resist disease. It truly underscores the interconnectedness, the resilience of all your body's systems.
So, listening to all this, what stands out to you? How does this new knowledge maybe change your perspective on your own body's incredible resilience and its capacity for self-defense? We really hope you walk away feeling not just informed, but genuinely amazed by the complexity, the elegance, really, of human anatomy. Thank you for being part of our deep dive into Human Anatomy and Physiology, Chapter 20.
And thank you for being part of our last-minute lecture family.